per hour. You can see it's all part of a bigger cluster of thunderstorms that is also moving east, eventually making it toward Bartlesville and toward Tulsa. Main part of this, though, still staying to the north of Interstate 40. Things are still very quiet south of Interstate 40. You're watching Fox 23 News at 6 o'clock, and the news is weather right now. We've got an active tornado warning in effect in Pawnee and southern Osage County. That is in effect now until 6:15 as we watch that move toward the east. Now, what I want to do is show you just how far to the west this line is and just when it might make it into the Tulsa area. Now, as we look at the line, you can kind of pick out that the motion of this is a little bit more to the northeast. We're looking at about 49 to 50 miles or so to the northwest of Tulsa, but it's not moving directly toward the city of Tulsa. We're going to probably have to wait for this continued development through central parts of Oklahoma to make it toward the metro area. What that means is the bigger area of rain, and that is going to be delayed just a little bit, probably well after 7 o'clock. We're still seeing a fairly unstable atmosphere across parts of northeast Oklahoma and the rest of northeast Oklahoma, too, including the metro area. We've seen a couple of showers of thunderstorms try to bubble up and make it into Tulsa, but they've not managed to get going completely in the metro or the rest of eastern Oklahoma. But even the atmosphere here would be very supportive of rotating thunderstorms if we could get a thunderstorm to intensify to that degree where it can tap into some of that atmospheric condition. Now, our team coverage continues with Fox 23 certified meteorologist Laura Mock. And Laura, the rotation's still there, but it's just not quite as strong as it was before.
And that's great news when we're looking at these storms. We'd like to see the rotation come down. That means it's not quite as capable of producing a tornado, but I think we're starting to get in the situation now as this line moves into Osage and Pawnee counties that we may have a couple more quick spin-ups possible along this line. We've already noticed at least 2 areas of rotation that we've been tracking, and I would not be surprised within the next 30 minutes, an hour, that we continue to have to deal with these. And we're also watching the possibility for more storms to bubble up, maybe a little bit closer to Tulsa. So as we take a closer look to this, we're going to go ahead and switch over to velocity and zoom in on the areas where we have the tornado warning in effect, zoom in on those areas that we're currently watching that rotation. So as we come in a little bit closer, we're still looking generally between Pawnee and Fairfax. It's definitely a little harder to pick out exactly where that rotation is, but we've been keeping a very close eye on this. You can see near Ralston, maybe a little notch right there between Ralston and Fairfax. Doesn't look terribly strong at the moment. I know we've been watching one area just to the north of Glencoe too. And I'm actually going to step off the screen, rewind this just a little bit to see the evolution of this, to see if this is consistent with what we've been seeing over the last couple of scans. So as we take a look at this, we may have seen a slight strengthening with that rotation. Let me go over to reflectivity and then velocity. So where we're looking at this rotation, looks to be just to the west of Pawnee, right in this area. That's where we're looking at the potential rotation with this storm. And there have been a couple of areas that we've been having to watch. So right now, if you are in Pawnee, if you are not already in your tornado safe place, get there now. You are in a tornado warning until 6:15, and you need to be taking this very seriously. Ralston, even Fairfax, you need to be in your tornado safe place too. Take these storms seriously today. This could be a very dangerous day. We've already seen very dangerous storms in central and southwestern Oklahoma. And just on the left side of your screen, we're watching that storm, this entire storm system, as it gets closer to Pawnee. This is a live look at the storm we are currently tracking. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that off. We're going to switch back to reflectivity and then zoom out just a little bit. So it's definitely in these situations when we get the line of storms, sometimes it can be hard to pick out exactly where that rotation is. So if you find yourself under a tornado warning, even just pulling up your radar app, you may not be able to identify exactly where that is. This isn't going to be one of those big storms with the hook that you're quickly able to identify. No, these rotations are very hidden in the radar imagery. So just take these storms very seriously. So currently 2 tornado warnings in effect. Technically, we're kind of considering them the same tornado warning since it's covering the same area of the storm. This is in effect until 6:15. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and put a new updated track on that rotation that we have coming in closer to Pawnee. If you're in Pawnee, you need to be in your shelter now, as that is very, very close. So as we continue to track this storm, as it moves off to the east, maybe with a slight northerly component to it, we're looking at Pawnee, 613, and really a little bit earlier than that. Skeety, 625, Blackburn, 636, Cleveland, 651. If you are under a tornado warning right now, get to your safe place. The storms today are moving very quickly. If you have a tornado warning issued, don't wait. Take immediate action if a tornado warning is issued. So if you are included in this, Ralston, Fairfax, Pawnee, Merrimack, even Blackburn, Cleveland, get to your safe place right now. So let's go ahead and clear this off. What we're going to do is come in a little bit closer, or at least look at some of the other areas of the storm, especially since we are starting to get some updates, some more scans on the radar, an updated look at where these storms currently are. In fact, I'm going to step off the screen just a little bit and take a look behind the scenes here at some of our high resolution data. And it looks like we are definitely seeing at least a couple areas with potential rotation. I'm going to zoom in real quick back to the Burbank-Fairfax area. Things aren't completely clear with this, but anytime we are looking at these storms, anytime you start to see just a little bit of an indentation on this line, that's where we could possibly have some rotation. So this is now just past Fairfax and Ralston. Maybe another one trying to start up just to the east of Burbank. Again, these are just very slight signs of rotation along this line, but still a situation to take seriously. So Ralston and Fairfax, you are included in this tornado warning. Looking off to the east, we're looking at Winona, even Pawhuska. You need to be paying attention to this storm. Anytime a tornado warning is issued just upstream from you, from where those storms are coming, you need to be paying attention, and you need to be potentially getting ready to get in your safe place. So as this continues to move off to the east, we just had another update there. Some very heavy rain getting into Ralston, Fairfax, heavy rain in Pawnee. Now, as you can see on the left side of your screen, these storms continue to push east very quickly, and also a lot of heavy rain expected today. That is another threat. We've been talking a lot about the tornado threat, but the flooding threat is going to be a concern too. We've already had a lot of rain across the area, and like James was saying, a lot of this rain is falling in the Arkansas River Basin. That's all going to go eventually down the Arkansas River into Keystone Lake, eventually closer to Tulsa. If you're in one of these areas in the Arkansas River Basin, you need to be monitoring creeks and streams. If you live next to one of those, watch those water levels closely, and the most important thing, don't drive through flooded roadways. You don't know the condition of the road underneath, and you don't know exactly how deep that water is. It doesn't take much to lose control of your vehicle with flooded roadways. A lot of heavy rain coming down right now in Pawnee. So let's go ahead and zoom this out just a little more. We'll come back to Pawnee and get an updated look at conditions there. You're just kind of on the southern edge of this storm. Very heavy rainfall you can see coming across Highway 15 here, just to the north of Morrison, just northwest of Pawnee. This is going to be definitely affecting driving conditions in the area today. And honestly, today is just not one of those days that you want to be on the roadways. As we take another look at velocity, looks like we may have a little bit of rotation. What we were tracking, maybe to the west of Pawnee, may have moved up just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and rewind this one more time. And it just gives us a better idea of what is going on with the situation. And it does look like that rotation has kind of slipped up to the north a little bit. It's pretty consistent with what we were seeing before. But again, still not completely clear on just how strong that rotation is. A lot of the times with these, it is very difficult to tell, but we're still in it. We still have these tornado warnings in effect until 6:15. Osage and south central Pawnee and south central Osage counties under this tornado warning. Take it seriously. And we have the complete Fox23 severe weather team working today, monitoring conditions, watching the storms for you. Chief Meteorologist James Adela is still looking at some of this data, and it does look like we're starting to see maybe a couple of small spin-ups possible across the line, but right now it doesn't look like any one definitive area is super strong right now.
Right. We've had a couple of reports come in. I just tweeted a picture someone sent me on Twitter. I just retweeted that of a funnel or possible tornado very close to Sooner Lake. That's in extreme eastern Noble County. So that's right before this tornado, the circulation crossed into parts of Pawnee County. So nothing recently. We did have a highway patrol report very close to the same area. That's Bill's Corner, 177 and 64 west of Pawnee, that we had a brief tornado touchdown. So far, as you can see on the left side of your screen, we do have that rain moving into Pawnee right now. Here's Pawnee, and that heavier rain just about to move into the city. We've watched that circulation. It's a little bit weaker, but it moved up closer to Ralston right now. It looks like we've got maybe a new circulation that may be trying to form right here. Again, north of Pawnee, right along Highway 18, very close to the Highway 15 crossroads right here north of Pawnee, just a few miles. So this is probably the realm that we're going to be in with this particular cluster of thunderstorms, with just these spin-ups that form very quickly and thankfully are usually significantly weaker than a typical supercell tornado. But you can see a little bit of red right here, a little bit of green right here. So if we've got something going, it would be kind of right in this area, which is now just to the east of Highway 18. This is, well, just got a radar update here, so let me switch that back out. We'll replace where we have a little bit of that rotation. Again, now we're a little bit further to the east of Highway 18. And that's earlier video of a large tornado in southwest Oklahoma. That's way down in Greer County, close to Mangum. That tornado was on the ground for quite a while, and we had several of our Fox23 storm trackers on there, but you can see that was a large stovepipe tornado. That gives you an idea of just how conducive the atmosphere is for rotating thunderstorms today. Right now, we've got a much smaller scale rotation in parts of western Pawnee County. This is going to pass pretty close to Skeety, and it looks like it'll be south of Ralston, but over the next few minutes, as I draw that track, it looks like it glitched just a little bit there. But again, that's going to take this kind of right across parts of Pawnee County, and again, very close to the Arkansas River bottoms right here. So new tornado warning has been extended now until 7 o'clock, so we're going to be with you at least through that point too, just to the north of Pawnee, and that's exactly that area of rotation that we're tracking for you as that moves toward, well, in the general direction of Ralston. Let me bounce this back out as we look live in Pawnee right now. At this point, the danger area certainly looks like it is to the north of Pawnee as we watch that rotating thunderstorm there. Now, we'll watch this closely because as it continues to move toward the east, there is a chance we could get some redevelopment a little bit further southeast along that line. That would be something we'll watch closely in Tulsa. So if it can develop back to the southeast, we could be dealing with this rotating thunderstorm getting closer to the metro area. This is the first time we've mentioned Hominy in a tornado track too. So in Hominy, Winona, all the way east across southern Osage and northern Pawnee County, all the way through the area. That's what we're looking at, all the way toward Hominy and Winona right now. Let's take a look, a little zoomed in view here right now as we look up into, looks like we're going to go a little south of Pawnee here. But let me go back to the north where we're watching these circulations developing right along the leading edge here. So one north of Skeety. We have very strong winds blasting through Ralston right now, I would say. So we look at velocity right now. We've had one area of wind. You can see this very bright green right here. In fact, we may be starting to see a little spin developing here east of Fairfax. Again, these are going to be kind of quick type, fast spin up situations. Let's take a look at this with reflectivity and see if it matches up with what we're seeing. And again, we're seeing just that little bit of a notch take place here. So with that, that's going to take the danger area a little closer to Pawhuska too. Let's put one rotation here as this moves to the northeast. I want to examine that a little bit closer with Fox23 high-resolution Doppler radar. Hominy understands sounding the tornado sirens right now. We've had another report from Osage County Sheriff of very strong winds, up to 80 miles per hour in the community of Ralston. So this is a very serious storm as it moves to the east-northeast. Again, there's some indications this thing might turn the corner a little bit, head down toward the Tulsa area. So certainly hope that's not the case, but we'll be tracking it if it does. Just to the south of Strom and to the west of Winona, if we did have another tornado forming in this area here. I'm going to zoom out and give you a little better perspective of that before we do a track on that storm. So we're looking southwest of Pawhuska right now. And if we do the track on that storm from this location, it's going to be pretty close to Pawhuska moving to the northeast. And that's going to take it close to Pershing, Nalogany, Kahiki, and toward Barnsdall by about 6:42. So these are town names we've not mentioned up to this point with tonight's storm. The very strong winds continue to sweep toward Ralston. You saw a new polygon appear, which is a severe thunderstorm warning that's also going to catch Bartlesville, Dewey, and up toward Copan, too. So that is going to be for some very strong winds sweeping in here. Let me take you all the way back out, and we'll update you on the rest of the storms across the metro area and northeast Oklahoma. It's been very quiet so far southeast of this big cluster of thunderstorms, even though we continue very unstable in our area. We're still looking for the chance of thunderstorms developing ahead of this line. It has not happened yet, but the atmosphere is still very much conducive for that as we continue to see some of those parameters out ahead of this line of storms. But we're watching the line of storms. We're looking for leading edge spin-ups, which is a whole lot better than looking for these super large tornadoes like we've seen in southwest Oklahoma a little bit earlier today. Now, that's not to say we don't have an atmosphere that's also conducive for bigger tornadoes. We just haven't seen the storms develop into that cluster, into those individual cells necessary. They've all been kind of clustered up a little bit, so we have not seen a big tornado threat, but we are still seeing are a couple little leading edge circulations here in the atmosphere. We talk an awful lot on these type of events about getting storms oriented just right to tap into the atmospheric winds and the wind shear to generate these spin up tornadoes. Well, our wind shear is so strong in the atmosphere now, we're more looking for these notches and bumps and a pickup in wind coming into the backside of these storms instead of storm orientation, because the way this is set up, nearly any storm with the wind shear and the velocity of wind that we have in the upper levels of the atmosphere could produce a brief spin-up tornado as this line moves toward the east. Now, if it takes a turn back again toward the right, a little bit more toward the Tulsa area, that risk may actually go up just a little bit too as we watch that tornado warning that's still in effect now for about 42 more minutes for Osage and Pawnee County. There's the track, and it's that little leading edge that we're watching closely as it moves off toward the east-southeast. So still looking at what appears to be a little bit noisy velocity right now just to the southwest of Pawhuska. It's not a clear rotational signal, but there's something there that's actually, it looks like it, but it also looks like it's definitely worth watching here. You can see, but it just looks not quite as clean as what you'd like it to look like. And there's not a big notch or anything right along here too. So we're going to watch this closely. It may just be an artifact in the radar returns, and it certainly does. It's kind of speckly and noisy right in here, but we're going to be watching this one very closely. Also, just a little bit further to the south of that, almost straight west of Winona. Got a little bit of circulation right here. Understand tornado sirens are sounding in Pawhuska. Out of an abundance of caution, you are in the tornado warning polygon. It would be a good idea to take your tornado precautions in Pawhuska as this storm approaches. But we're not seeing kind of a single dominant rotation with the storm right now. We're seeing several of these little quick spin-ups on the leading edge. So we're trying to knock these out, bring them to your attention as soon as we find those storms as well as they continue to move toward the east and getting a little bit closer to Pawhuska too. I'm looking at some of our high-resolution Doppler radar data and not seeing any indication that we've got debris or anything like that being lofted with the storm. I'm looking a little bit further to the south along this line. I'm not seeing any kind of big, rotations that are coming to my attention with the storm. Now, it has certainly produced some very strong wind. We had an 80-mile-per-hour wind report in Ralston, and that was just a few minutes ago. And there's Ralston and extreme northern parts of Pawnee County. That was an Osage County Sheriff report. But again, as we watch this wider view, I look at this brighter green color here. That's some pretty strong wind coming in across parts of Osage County in the general direction of Hominy. Sometimes that wind intersecting with the leading edge of the storm can start one of those leading edge swirls, and that's going to be something that we're going to watch, and that's what's already happened in a couple of places along this line. Even if it doesn't cause a spin up, it's also going to be some very strong wind moving in. So just southwest of Pawhuska, we still have that persistent little area of rotation that we're continuing to watch closely. Understand those tornado sirens have sounded in Hominy. Tornado sirens have sounded in Pawhuska too. The official tornado warning is in effect for basically that area of Osage County south of Highway 60 and west of Highway 99, but does include Pawhuska and Hominy and Cleveland. It looks like the danger area now is to the east of Fairfax right now. So we'll continue updating you on this. Fox 23 certified meteorologist Brad Carl has also been watching these storms closely. And Brad, I don't know if we've got an updated computer hour-by-hour forecast. We get those in about once an hour, but if you wouldn't mind taking us through that and what we can expect in Tulsa. Sure, and kind of overall what we're seeing is what you've been talking about, that eventually we're going to see more of this, more of these storms be kicking up closer to the Tulsa metro and farther off to the east. Like you've been talking about right now, though, with that line that we've had, those have been those quick little spin-ups in areas around Pawnee and into Osage County. The concern is going to be if any storms happen to pop up in front of that line, they basically be feeding off of their own energy as opposed to kind of having to fight along a line to survive, basically. So the ones you're seeing here on radar predictors, see the ones that have kind of jumped out in front of that line a little farther off to the west in areas over here just south of Tulsa, closer to Okmulgee and Muskogee. And don't get too attached to the exact location, but just know there's the possibility that with these more isolated cells, that those ones would certainly have more of that stronger tornado potential. And those are the ones we certainly don't want to see more of, but unfortunately, more of them are ahead. This is now 8:30 into the evening. You can see additional ones popping up along Highway 75. That would include areas around Tulsa and Bristow, Bartlesville, potentially up into Independence, Kansas. And then we just continue to see more of that develop over the next hour or two. And there have been some indications from models that we'll be seeing the activity that we're seeing right now in Pawnee and Osage County gradually kind of shifting off to the southeast, a little bit closer to the metro, with those more supercellular formation of storms possible as we go on into this evening. So I will say I've been answering some questions on our main Fox 23 page of people wondering, I'm in a mobile home. What do I do right now? A mobile home is not going to be safe for you. You need to have something that has a better foundation with tornadoes at least possible. So whether it be a friend or a neighbor or some other kind of shelter, at least it has to have a solid foundation. But mobile homes will be putting you in danger. Those are more likely to be picked up and rolled and not safe in the event of a tornado. As we continue going on through the evening, 10, 11 o'clock, as we've also talked about, in addition to that heightened tornado threat, we also have that pronounced flooding threat. It's in the exact spot that we don't need any additional rainfall. The spots that have been seeing heavy rainfall over the last week or two, north and northwest of Tulsa toward Pawnee, into Osage County, into southern Kansas. And the problem is all that goes right into the Arkansas River Basin, and eventually will be coming on into Keystone Lake and go behind Keystone Dam. Now, as James has already talked about, we have a little bit more room now behind Keystone Lake as the Army Corps of Engineers has been able to empty out some of that water. It would really have been nice to have gotten a longer period of time to be able to empty some of that water. So there is some space, but if we get these storms training like this over the same location, all of that eventually ends up in the Arkansas River, and that would be heightening the flash flooding threat in an already saturated area, and also be bringing a lot more water into Keystone Lake and also potentially into the Arkansas River as well. Through midnight, those training storms continue, and it looks like overall, at least in the latest model runs of this, we begin to see more of that linear formation. That would mean more of those quick spin-up tornadoes as opposed to those more heightened, certainly higher risk, stronger tornadoes if they were out by themselves, those supercells that basically would play out in front of the line. So through 1:30 and 2 o'clock, we're still dealing with tornado threats, but overall models are indicating perhaps a little bit more of a quick spin up
along the line as opposed to a more heightened out in front of the line kind of thing. By 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, we see it more of that line trying to work its way on through. It will likely be noisy at times. We'll be dealing with heavy rain, potentially some stronger winds along that line as well as they organize into that linear formation. And then by 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, it is going to be a wet commute, it looks like, for you around Tulsa and across much of green country, and providing additional rain. That line of storms, as it marches way off to the east, will still have that chance for those brief spin-ups. So even though, say, folks out in Muskogee, Tahlequah, Grove, Sallisaw may not be seeing that tornado threat right now, you may be seeing it into early on tomorrow morning as that line slowly makes its way a little bit closer to the Arkansas state line and eventually into northwest Arkansas and the Arkansas River Valley. By 8:30, 9 o'clock, that march continues. By 10 and 11 o'clock, we still see lingering showers around Tulsa and areas up and down Highway 75. But by that point, most of that severe activity will come to a close. The main concern would be areas on the eastern fringe toward Tahlequah, Sallisaw, and then by 11:30 and noontime, most of that activity makes its way on into Arkansas and out of green country. So once again, we have that heightened tornado risk possible throughout the rest of the evening with the possibility of some stronger tornadoes in that, including around the metro. And then as we get into the overnight hours, we'll have more of those quick spin-ups possible, along with the possibility of flash flooding, particularly in areas north and northwest of Tulsa that we are most concerned with. I was just taking a look at the Oklahoma Mesonet data here is in terms of how much we've seen in an hour. Some areas kind of just out toward, or at least just west of Pawnee County, Red Rock, picking up more than 1.5 inches of rain in just an hour's time. So these storms are going to be prolific rainmakers, a lot really being able to stack up very, very quickly. And if we see hours upon hours upon hours of storms over the same locations, that will be very problematic and potentially not a good thing as far as flooding concerns. Many areas north and northwest of Tulsa, perhaps even in the metro itself, will end up seeing some of those flash flooding concerns really come our way into the evening hours, overnight, and potentially stretching into tomorrow morning as well. It will then take additional time for some of that water to make its way on into the Arkansas River itself. So there could even be some additional flooding threats as we go on into our Tuesday and Wednesday as that rain slowly works its way on into the rivershed. Now, James, you continue to track those storms for us, generally west of Tulsa at this point, and also looking at when we could be seeing additional storms firing up around the metro, too.
Yeah, we still have that one active tornado warning for southern Osage County, northern Pawnee County. That's in effect until 7 o'clock. There's a live view from Pawnee on the left side of your screen, getting that heavy rain moving into Pawnee now. It looks like that leading edge spin-up threat continues to be very transient with this. And what I mean by that, these are very quick. The life cycle of these things has been very, very short. As we look, though, right into this tornado warned zone, I'm going to zoom in here. Pawhuska area and all the way down to the west of Winona, where we earlier had a little bit of rotation taking place, and now back into, we'll say from the Arkansas River on Highway 20, Blackburn area kind of curving back toward Pawnee. Let's check the velocity pictures right now. And again, we may be seeing a little bit of rotation here along Highway 20. But again, these are just so transient and kind of quick hitting rotations too. That tornado warning, though, remaining in effect for about 30 more minutes. I'm telling you, the atmosphere is just loaded. The winds are oriented perfectly for rotating thunderstorms. The magnitude of the winds are perfect for rotating thunderstorms. So when we see any of these thunderstorms sort of break loose away from the line, that's going to be one we really focus on. But for now, a lot of these thunderstorms have kind of congealed into this big mess. You can see these really neat-looking mammatus clouds on the left side of your screen over Pawnee right now. That's more of an indication of instability in the atmosphere than it is any kind of rising motion. You can see that rain continues to pour down with that view of the rain kind of lit there by that light. So as we look in the Arkansas River bottoms right here northwest of Blackburn, seeing a little bit of a notch here, but the velocity signals are still very low end. It doesn't appear that we've got any kind of big spin up coming our way. A lot of the folks in Pawnee there, you can see on the left side of your screen, out taking a look at some of those mammatus clouds, but no imminent danger. Moving into Pawnee right now, I think what's going to end up happening with this thunderstorm complex, and that's what we've talked about too over the last few minutes, is just how much rain is falling out of this cluster of thunderstorms. And we can really get a better idea of that as I zoom out just a bit, and we can kind of put this into motion. We've got flash flood warnings already in Pawnee and Osage County. That will probably be extended. In fact, it has. It's going all the way until 12:45. But watch this as I animate the radar pictures. Watch how slowly this rain actually appears to be making its way to the east. We've already had one batch of really heavy rain move right over parts of Osage and Pawnee County over the last few minutes and over the last couple of hours, even earlier this afternoon. That's what prompted the original flash flood warning that is in effect. And now we come up to the current picture. We have a severe thunderstorm, looks like just to the west of Pawhuska. It's popped up in intensity just a little bit too. Now, as we roll forward with our coverage, that tornado warning is in effect until 7 o'clock for basically south of Highway 60 and west of Highway 99. Tornado sirens have sounded in Hominy and in Pawhuska, too, as we watch this cluster of storms move our way. Now, as we check in with our team coverage, Laura, you've been watching these, too, over the last few minutes. Hadn't checked in with you in a little while.
And I've been taking a very close look, especially behind the scenes here with our high-resolution radar, just trying to pinpoint where we could have some of those small spin-ups along this line of storms. And I'm not saying anything super worrying right now. We still have the tornado warning in effect through most of south-central Osage County and Pawnee County, too. That's going until 7 o'clock just because of how slowly these storms are moving. But as we go ahead and pause this radar loop, that's an hour of radar data across the area, things are definitely starting to slow down. And again, that heavy rain threat is there. But I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit to one of the areas that I'm keeping a very close eye on, and that is closer to the Pawhuska area. Regardless of if anything is spinning right now in Pawhuska, you have very heavy rain coming in and very strong winds coming in, too. You can see that brighter reflectivity, the pinks and purples starting to show up with the dark red around it too. That indicates extremely heavy rainfall and strong winds pushing in as well. One of the things I've been watching for, at least in this portion of the storm, is we've had a bit of a push with the winds directly into Pawhuska, and sometimes that can be enough for a little bit of a spin up, and you can see a little bit of an indentation there just north of Pawhuska. But again, it's very vague. The rotation is on a lot of these areas of the storms. But we're still going to be watching these very closely. And this one just almost out of that tornado warning. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to velocity, and we'll come in a little bit closer to that Pawhuska storm. Winds possibly 50, 60, 70 miles an hour at times. You can see some of those really strong winds right at Highway 11 and 60 there just to the southeast of town. That's coming in just on the southeast side of town. But again, not seeing any big signs of rotation with this storm, and we can go all the way along, all the way down to the south too. That's kind of the northernmost area I've been watching. And as we take a look south along this storm too, not seeing any big signs there. You can see northwest of Hominy, something vague going on there, at least with the rotation. As we take a look at reflectivity, really nothing there to support any real spin-ups from this. But we have to watch every little notch on this line so carefully because these spin-ups can develop so quickly. So if you see us just going off and looking at different parts of the storm, that's what we're doing. That's the threat that we have with this line as it comes in. We have the possibility for those quick spin-up tornadoes, and they don't last long typically. Sometimes they can just be a couple of minutes, they quickly spin up, and then they're gone. So that's kind of the threat that we're looking at with these with this cluster of storms currently moving through the area. I'm going to go ahead and reset real quick just to give you a better idea of what's going on with the rest of the area. We'll put this back on the hour loop. We have this line of storms that's been off to our west pretty much all afternoon. Lots of severe storms, lots of severe weather warnings off to our west. We're now starting to get those a little bit closer to home. We have that tornado warning currently in effect until 7 o'clock. And on top of that, we're starting to see a little more activity bubble up to the south of Tulsa. Nothing significant right now, nothing severe right now. All of our severe weather is staying to the northwest of the Tulsa metro. But as these storms start to develop, we're going to be keeping an extremely close eye on those, especially since they're separate from that main line. Because of that, it's going to have more energy to work with and a very high potential of any of those storms that form starting to rotate. So that's also going to be something that we watch. As we take a look on the left side of your screen, a live look in Pawnee as this heavy rain comes down. Just out of the corner of my eye, saw some lightning going on there too. They've been dealing with the rain now for at least 45 minutes now, and it's been heavy rain too. And that brings us back to the flooding threat. You're going to be hearing us talk about that a lot tonight because that's as big of a concern for us as the tornado threat too. That's how big of a deal. So much rain possible from these storms, especially if they sit over the same area. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing right now through Osage County, Pawnee County, back through Stillwater. This has been a very slow progression eastward. And right now, it's right along a boundary. We were tracking a warm front coming through this morning. The boundary between more cooler air to the north and warm, unstable air to the south. And along that boundary, that's where this line of storms is going to be able to sit and dump a lot of rain, and that's where it's going to just continue to track along, and that looks to be what we're seeing right now. And it's really going to keep the progression of things pretty slowly. We have started to see a little more of an eastward progression from the storms coming into Stillwater. This could potentially get a little bit closer to the Tulsa metro, but still several severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. You can see all the way into Washington County, severe thunderstorm warnings there. That's just to the north of Tulsa County. Tulsa County, no warnings just yet, but just give it a little bit of time. These storms are going to continue to move through the area, and we have the potential for so much more severe weather as we go through the evening hours, overnight, even into tomorrow morning. This is a prolonged event. I'm going to go ahead and come back in just a little bit more back to our storms that are moving through Osage County. As I pause this and come in a little bit closer, it's looking like it's trying to give us a little bit of a notch there now north of Pawhuska. Here's 99, Bowering just to the northeast. And as we take a look at velocity, just a quick check of that. Not seeing any big signs of the rotation on this either, but still, anytime we see those notches in the line, we have to take a close look at it. But right now, the tornado threat still very vague across the area, but we're still keeping a close eye on it. We have full Fox23 severe weather team coverage tonight and overnight and into tomorrow morning too. Chief Meteorologist James Alott still tracking these storms as they move through the area.
Yeah, again, we're really looking for any kind of focus for those spin-ups, but on the longer-term radar picture, we have not yet seen kind of a turn back into the metro area, but as Laura said, well, we've continued to see at least a little increase in these showers bubbling up ahead of this thunderstorm complex. So far, not a lot of that has moved down further south where it would be moving toward the Tulsa area. But one thing to consider, our atmosphere is still very conducive to rotating severe thunderstorms. So while we're seeing closely in parts of Okmulgee County, also near Holdenville, east of McAllister and west of Wilburton, a couple of showers trying to develop right now, none of these have managed to really get rooted in the atmosphere and start to intensify to the point where they can tap into the wind fields that are in the atmosphere that are so strongly supportive of tornado development. So our big thunderstorm complex and flooding cause is continuing to sit just to the northwest of Tulsa, but it is slowly making progress our way. Now, to reset for you, we do have a tornado watch that is in effect until 10 o'clock for basically Highway 75 and west, for Highway 75 and east, including Montgomery County and Kansas, all the way into the Ozarks of Missouri and Arkansas. With that tornado watch is in effect until 1 o'clock in the morning, and the slow, steady progress of this system is moving our way. Now, the main situation that we have that's continuing to try to cause some of these spin-up tornadoes, we've got a warm front that actually extends right across northern Tulsa County right now, and that moves right up into where these storms are. Well, that warm front is kind of been the focus for the lift from this complex of thunderstorms, and with that focus, that's just been all the extra focus that it's needed to spin up some of these brief tornadoes on the leading edge of the line. Now, this one that's prompted the tornado warning did produce a confirmed tornado a little bit further to the west in parts of Noble County right now. And here is finally some great news. The National Weather Service canceling that tornado warning earlier. As Fox 23 meteorologist Laura Mock has said, the rotation much weaker. Now, you can see our Fox 23 severe weather team is fanned out across the area. And before we go back to programming, I want to show you further to the southwest, we have more unstable air, and we've got severe thunderstorm warnings all the way down into Texas, and even in the high plains of West Texas, another tornado warning. All of this instability will be working its way east across eastern Oklahoma this evening and tonight. We'll be back on the air at a moment's notice if any of these spin-ups get to the point where we start worrying about one of those causing a tornado or two. For now, we'll continue with updates, top of the bottom of the hour. And don't forget, you can always use the interactive radar on fox23.com in the meantime to stay updated and track these storms to the southwest. So stay with Fox 23, and we will keep you advised.